I've been playing Wizard 101 for 15 years, and in that time, I've made many mistakes. But there are some that if someone had told me not to do them, it would have saved me a lot of pain, a lot of hardship, maybe a lot of time. So today's video is about the top 5 mistakes that all Wizard 101 players make. And I try to make this list in a way where, you know, it's useful for very new players, but also very useful for veteran players. So without further ado, let's get right into number 5. Number 5 actually only applies to new players, but this is something that if you don't do, it's ridiculous. Let's say that you just made a new wizard, right? And you're ready to quest in Wizard City and Wizard 101. You start off the game with a bunch of item cards, but you also get a spell. And while this isn't such a big deal early in the game, once you start hitting like, you know, Krakatopia, Marleybone, you're gonna want these spells enchanted. And in my opinion, the biggest mistake that people assume is that they cannot have access to these enchants by themselves. The second you have access to the housing tours, all you have to do is click on Visit Castle, right? And it doesn't really matter which one you go to, as long as it's an Arcanum apartment. So for example, right, I can click on this, and as soon as I'm here, I have access to the Arcanum, which also means with gold, I have a full amount of access to enchants. I think it's a huge mistake if at any level where you can afford it, you don't come here to buy these monstrous TCs so you can enchant every hit. I feel like this becomes really relevant, you know, Krakatopia, Marleybone. So gold should not be an issue. You should be able to, like, you know, get a bunch of gold and then figure it out. But yes, if you're low level and you want to speed through the game, this is the best method right now. The second you have access to castle tours, go into the building. It's located in the comments. You have immediate access to the Arcanum all by yourself. And with a little bit of gold, you can buy all the enchants you need for all of your questing needs. The number 4 most made mistake is something that, in my opinion, when I learned about this, it was life-changing. I think the number 4 mistake in Wiz right now is people don't make gear vault. Does your inventory ever look like this or even worse? Well, if you're anything like me and you hoard a lot of gear, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You might want that gear later. However, you can easily store it in a gear vault so you can access it later for when you need it instead of crowding out your inventory. And I think there's a super common misconception about gear vaults, and that they're pay to win. I think people genuinely think you can only buy gear vaults from the crown shop, but actually it's super easy to craft. All you have to do is do the crafting quests through just the Marleybone one, and then you can talk to my man's over here, Toshio, and when you talk to him, he can sell you a gear vault recipe. It's honestly not that hard of a recipe. By the time you're, you know, at the stage of the game where you're hoarding that much loot, none of this is really that hard. I think the hardest reagent is the reinforced crate, and that can be bought by the furniture vendor in Wizard City. I hate to admit it, but this is something I learned quite recently, how easy it is, and the second I made gear vaults on all my wizards, my inventory was calm. So don't make the mistake of not making a gear vault, man. It is life-changing. I think the third biggest mistake a Wizard 101 player might actually make without even thinking about it is not trying Beast Moon. Beast Moon's number 3 on this list because I honestly think this is an extremely underrated side activity. I think a lot of people look at all of the beast forms and everything else that you could do, and honestly, they feel intimidated. But frankly, I think this is one of the most rewarding side activities because it's the only form of team play in this game, in my opinion, that doesn't require any preparation beforehand. You don't need a membership to do Beast Moon. You don't need gear to do Beast Moon. You don't even need to be high level to do Beast Moon. And you also get insane rewards, like things like spellaments for spells that are extremely influential. By doing Beast Moon, I was able to max my Monster Mash and have access to a spell that has the highest damage per pip out of any death spell for just putting a weakness on your opponent. And every school has spells that they get spellments for that you can only get through Beast Moon. If that wasn't enough to convince you, they're definitely going to be changing AoEs sooner than later because they've already added a spellment path for them, but they haven't really, you know, figured out the way the tiers, I think, are going to work. But the second they do, this is the source of these spellments as well. So you get a bunch of free spellments. You honestly get a really cool way to experience the game. And there are free forms every event, so you don't really need to prepare. When I first started doing Beast Moon, I was under the impression that you needed a lot to be ready. You simply don't, and I think that's why it's such a big mistake not to even try it. You might actually really like it. I think the second biggest mistake you can make in Wizard 101, and it's a mistake that everyone makes, in my opinion, is buying one of these. Now, here's the thing. I get why a mega snack pack is tempting, right? You literally get 7 snacks, and it's basically immediately you get snacks that add up to 350 pet XP, basically. And as you can see, right, like, I have an adult pet, and 350 XP would get me basically almost all the way to Ancient. So I can see for, like, why for a newer player especially, why this looks like such a tempting offer. But in my opinion, this is never worth it over seeds that you can actually, like, buy with the same amount of crowns, but you can actually get essentially endless snack. In the very same crown shop where you might make the mistake of purchasing a whole ass mega snack pack, you can buy couch potatoes or evil magma peas for less than the price of a mega snack pack. And if you just buy a few of these and you harvest them, you'll get more snacks from these at less of the price than you ever would by buying mega snack pack. I'm not saying never buy these. If you really want to, I can see why you would, but like, I feel like as a long-term solution, mega snack packs are never a good purchase. I feel like you should always just rank up your gardening however you can. You can even go as far as to do what I did, which is when I was making all my magma pea gardens, I literally farmed these essentially for free as long as I had a membership, and it was super calm, right? You ended up with like, I have mega snacks, more mega snacks than I know what to do with, basically. So yes, could you buy these? I'm not gonna judge you, but you could always get more snacks in the long term by spending your crowns on seeds or even farming them for just the price of a membership. And at the top of my list, and I know this might seem like it's not even a real mistake, but in my opinion, it is the biggest one you can make when playing this game. I think the biggest mistake you can make is playing the game on mute. When I first took a gigantic break from Wizard 101, it's because I hadn't turned on the audio on this game in years. And don't get me wrong, I'm the type of person where if I'm playing this game, like, I don't know, 7 out of 10 times I'm watching something on the side, so I have the game on mute, or I'm talking to people on a call, so I have the game on mute. And while that's totally fine, I do think if you don't, you know, even take just one moment at every now and then to really take in the atmosphere of some of the most beautiful places in the Spiral, with the music turned on, with the ambiance going, then I think you miss out on one of the things that has made Wizard 101 last for so long. I think for all the criticisms that I've ever, you know, given to Wizard 101 over all these years, the one thing that I cannot ever get them on are their soundtracks, their musical scores. I feel like there are certain areas where you might only experience that soundtrack just in that area. And I really think they have a serious amount of talent going into that type of stuff, and I think it's ludicrous to never listen to some of this music, right? At least give it a try, and it might remind you of the magic that got you into this game to begin with. Y'all, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I try to make this a list that would be helpful to some newer players, but also maybe, you know, some veteran players, things that affected me a lot in the past. But this is a super subjective list because it's based on my experience, so I want to hear what y'all think is the biggest mistake you can make while playing Wiz. I look forward to reading that in the comment section. As always, drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a sub review, and if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon, and yeah, y'all.